Welcome to Tucson Bitcoin Podcast. My name is Alex, and today my guest is Alex Geiger, who is the owner of Classic Crust Pizza up in Phoenix. And they're a business that accepts Bitcoin. And I was able to go up there, record in the pizza shop, which, honestly was kind of a bad idea because of just all the noise in the background. So hopefully you can bear with me in this one. But it was a great conversation with Alex. Next time I have him on, we'll record somewhere else where it's not so noisy. But it was super cool. I was able to buy pizza with Bitcoin just with a, really easy Lightning transaction on Blue Wallet to his service OpenNode. And it was so easy. It was, in my opinion, even easier than a debit credit transaction because you don't have to swipe a card, go through that whole thing. Literally just scan a QR code and boom, it's paid. It's really exciting. But yeah, I'm pretty fired up right now. Jack Maller's talk at Bitcoin Miami, I wasn't able to go, but I watched it online. El Salvador is making Bitcoin legal tender there, and that is so exciting. I had a conversation on the podcast a couple months ago with Mike Peterson about that, about what a Bitcoin circular economy looks like in action, and I don't know, things are just moving so quickly. Like they're making it almost a national currency at this point with this move, and it's just so incredible the work that Strike's doing. It's incredible the work that Mike Peterson's doing with Bitcoin Beach, and it's cool to see that energy here in Arizona with Classic Crust Pizza and a few other businesses that are accepting Bitcoin. Like we're getting there. This is the revolution. Bitcoin is not a stock. It is so much more. It's an open monetary network that is going to be freeing millions and millions of people and providing financial services to people that have been unbanked. And that's incredible. And on top of that, it protects our purchasing power from inflation. It protects us from theft, from the money printing. And this is huge. It's so huge. Bitcoin is the revolution, and I'm so excited. That was a great conversation. And then, on another note, Ross Ulbricht had his first, public appearance of sorts through a recorded phone call. And that really puts into perspective how important this is. Like, we need to take power back and promote freedom as much as possible. Like, people are just going to be living in prison for the rest of their lives, having, committed no violent crimes and not committing crimes that warrant being in cages. And it's a serious issue. And, we can do stuff about it with Bitcoin. We can really, really limit the power that the state has and really empower the individual. And that's, what this is about. This is what this podcast is about. That's what, this movement is about. It's a rejection of all of this insanity and totalitarianism. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited. I hope you enjoy this conversation. Thanks for doing this, Alex. This is fun.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Yeah, first time up to Classic Crust Pizza, and heard a lot about you guys. You guys are kind of Phoenix's Bitcoin mecca, from what I've heard.
Yeah, well, I opened this place to have our meetup group where we could meet in person, somewhere that would actually accept Bitcoin. When we founded the Arizona Bitcoin Meetup back in 2012, we were meeting at a farmer's market down in Tempe, and they wouldn't accept Bitcoin. We turned them onto it for a little bit. They accepted payments there for a couple of the meetups and then stopped. And we really wanted to encourage the use of Bitcoin, not just the hodling.
Yeah, it makes sense. Let me just adjust this a little bit for you. Cool. I think that sounds a little bit better. Yeah, there's definitely like a hesitancy for businesses to accept Bitcoin. It's something that's been pretty new. I had somebody reach out to me just last week in Tucson saying that they were going to do it in their hospital. But yeah, have you been talking with other business owners after that about why they should accept Bitcoin?
At this point, I just kind of try to work it within the network of other Bitcoiners. So it's like I've got a friend who's an electrician and he'll accept Bitcoin. I've got another friend that's a dentist and he'll accept Bitcoin. So I find rather than going out and talking to people unsolicited, it's better to, have them come in, and once you get to know them, then build your own network.
Yeah, Yeah, definitely. That's why Bitcoin meetups are so important to get the message out there and get people that are networked like that for sure.
They really are. I use the meetups kind of as a market gauge as well. So if it's, five or less people, then it's a good buying opportunity.
Makes sense.
If it's 40, 50 people, then we're at the top and it's time to sell.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely like noticed that over during COVID. I was going to the Zoom meetup with the Phoenix Bitcoin meetup, and that
Hmm.
was a lot of fun with those guys. But there was only about 6 of us in there at each
Yeah,
particular time.
that's pretty indicative of a good buying opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Hopefully, the next coming meetups will be kind of small then.
Well, it looks like they're growing though, so I mean, clearly we're, in the mid 30s price wise, so there's some interest definitely forming with the general public.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah, I think we'll know that we've hit a top when the politicians start coming in.
Yeah, you just look for Elon Musk's tweets and when we're at the top.
Sure. Gosh. So yeah, so you guys started in 2015. Started accepting Bitcoin right off the bat. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah. What was your journey with Bitcoin like to influence you to make that
I
decision?
got I got involved in Bitcoin pretty early, November of 2012 actually. Kind of walked into a Bank of America branch with $1,000 and deposited it into some random guy's checking account. And, an hour later, some money showed up on this janky exchange. Able to walk away with 100 Bitcoin. Gosh, I wish I had that much Bitcoin now.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, here and there, I got in 2018 when all the exchanges were kind of built out, and I mean, hearing the stories of like what it took to buy Bitcoin early on is pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, it was really strange times. So immediately I got into mining. After that, was mining on GPUs before there were any kind of ASICs. Got an FPGA farm going after that, and bought in some of the first Butterfly Labs ASICs. Yeah, and waited for those to show up.
Nice. Do you still mine today, or
I I don't anymore. I've been through that. I do hold some Riot blockchain and Marathon digital shares, so
gotcha?
I'm not mining myself, but I still have exposure to that.
Yeah, man, I was thinking about buying some S9s, which are for anybody listening are ASICs, pretty early on in like 2019, and if I had held on to those things, it'd be worth so much today. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is. You're generally way better off just buying Bitcoin than mining, though.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, mining is definitely a competitive game. So what was that journey like going from mining to deciding not to? What was that kind of like? What
Well,
was
we went all in on mining. I managed to dwindle my stack of Bitcoins from 100 down to about 36 by mining.
gotcha? So
Because you're chasing new machines, chasing more hardware, chasing bigger returns, and it's easy to spend a lot.
yeah, so I was just seeing that it wasn't profitable anymore. You decided to shut.
We got to the point where we had close to a megawatt at a data center, and the cost of mine was more than the amount of Bitcoin you could get, which
Yeah,
makes it really hard to pay the bills.
yeah, that makes sense. That's yeah, that's the hard thing about mining. I
So
mean, yeah,
we shut that business down, and we were looking for something to do next, and that's where we decided to do pizza.
cool. So yeah, could you walk us through what does it take for a business to accept Bitcoin?
We started off just really simple with a wallet, and we were accepting on-chain payments. I mean, back in 2015, it's just pennies per transaction, so it's just easy to accept them on-chain, and they're low-risk transactions, under $50. So we weren't worried about getting 6 confirmations or anything like that. So for the longest time, we just had a shared wallet that we accepted payments to. Um, Now on-chain payments, are a little slow, a little expensive. So now we're doing Lightning.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, Lightning's phenomenal. It's just like we just did a transaction right before and it settled instantly.
Instantly, and it was like $3.60. So I mean, it totally works for really small amounts. You can, put 50 cents into an arcade machine with Lightning, and that's a valid use case.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have people listen to my podcast and stream me like tiny fractions of Bitcoin, like 10 sats a minute or something like that. And
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's.
I just topped off a wallet. I wanted to have it exactly 1,000,000 sats in it. So I sent 2 sats over Lightning to it to finish it off.
That's awesome.
It's like, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean so you guys use OpenNode. What was kind of your decision making? There's a few options. Probably the most notable are OpenNode, BitPay, and BTC Pay Server.
So we're using OpenNode because it's really convenient. We're in the process of building out some Shopify stores, and they have full integration with Shopify. So we'll be able to accept Lightning payments for delivery orders and pickup orders through our Shopify stores when those go live.
Nice. And yeah, it's amazing. Like I know BTC Pay, I haven't tried it yet with Shopify, but I know they have an integration. It's just amazing that like how easy it is to integrate it with your normal point of sale.
My only concern with BTC Pay is you're having to run a node, you're having to manage your channels. It's not going to be nearly as seamless for my customers to walk in and pay.
Yeah, for sure.
And with OpenNode, they handle all that for you, and they charge 1%, which is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I think that
for a merchant that needs to settle in dollars because they have dollar-based expenses, then they can also provide that service for you.
Yeah. And then once you have the Bitcoin, what do you do with it? Like how do you view Bitcoin in the sense of like accepting it as a business?
So we retain all of the Bitcoin that we receive in our company treasury. We're not looking to spend it or use it for at least 4 years.
Awesome. I mean, I think that's phenomenal. This whole pandemic has really brought up the issue of like businesses not having, savings. That's, for normal people too. And Bitcoin is definitely like a very attractive option for that. Do you guys ever pay the employees in Bitcoin?
We have. When the employees ask to be paid in Bitcoin, we always make that an available option to them.
Gotcha. And kind of like from an accounting basis, what is that like reporting? Receiving Bitcoin.
We just report it as a sale. It's recorded in the point of sale system, and we pay sales tax and income tax and everything on it, just as it was a cash sale or a credit sale. It's just another payment form.
Gotcha. So it's not like entirely difficult with the IRS and stuff like that.
Not particularly. When you go to transact with it, then you have to look at, is there a capital gain or capital loss event?
Mm-hmm. And so does OpenNode, like when you receive the Bitcoin, does it keep track of the value that it was?
They do. Okay. They do. Oh. And we keep our company treasury on river.com.
Okay.
And it has basis tracking for everything. So we know for every bucket of money that's in there, what was the acquisition cost.
Gotcha. That's cool. So as far as like other businesses that are accepting Bitcoin in Arizona, I think there's 5 that I know of. There's a hospital in Tucson, you guys, and then a few other ones that I haven't visited yet and gotten to know. Are there any other business owners that you like frequently talk with that accept Bitcoin?
I don't have a big like business owner network. I am talking to somebody that runs a large barter network about converting their network to being Bitcoin based instead of their own private currency. So, there's definitely networks of businesses that are ready to be disrupted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I see it as kind of an inevitability of like all these companies accepting Bitcoin. But a bunch of companies are capitulating, like Venmo, PayPal, all those guys, to start, selling Bitcoin. And I think it's only a matter of time before, other businesses start capitulating to accept Bitcoin. You guys are way ahead of the curve on that one.
Yeah, I mean it's come naturally to us from the beginning. We've always been about having a place for the crypto community to come in and actually use Bitcoin, not just talk about it and hold it, but use it for payments. The narrative has switched quite a bit. When I first got started with Bitcoin, it was, cheap payments, international remittances, use cases that are now not part of the narrative. Now it's digital gold, a store of value. You just gotta hold. And I don't feel like that's a true representation of what Bitcoin's capabilities really are. I mean, there is the problem that it's going to increase in value significantly over the next 4 years. At some point, it's going to reach price stability, though. It'll eat pretty much the rest of the financial energy of the world, at which point there's no more financial energy to consume, and it's just the money.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. One of the things that gets me super stoked on Bitcoin is that idea of the Bitcoin circular economy and what that means when people start opting out fully of the fiat system, and opting out of all the, shenanigans that go along with that.
A lot of my friends that have chosen the route of let me just live on Bitcoin for 6 months or a year kind of regret that decision now.
Yeah.
So I kind of regret some of the decisions I've made, but not really. When I bought the restaurant, I sold quite a large number of coins that would be worth $10 million today or some crazy amount of money in order to fund the purchase. But the lessons I've learned and the experiences I've had and the people I've met and the journey that I'm on, I wouldn't trade for anything. So while I'd love to have those coins back, it's just not in the cards.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, you kind of like alluded to like the volatility of price. How do you guys navigate that as a business? I know you're mostly using it just for as a treasury or like a savings tool.
Right. We're not concerned about the day-to-day volatility because the Bitcoin payments are a small percentage of our revenues, so we're able to just save it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that over a long period of time, Bitcoin performs extremely well. The interim, day to day, month to month, can be extremely volatile. This cycle could go down to 20 still. It could go up to 300. A lot can happen in a bubble cycle.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this cycle, it's like I this is my first like full cycle that I've been through. My first bull market I got in right at the beginning of the bear market of 2018, 2019, and it's just wild. But I don't think like we've seen things like the amount of money printing that's going on and all the issues with supply chains and just the volatility.
$6 trillion budget bill. Just an immense amount of money. I don't think most people can fathom how much money that is. It's if you took all of the world's gold mining output for the next 35 years, that's $6 trillion.
Yeah, it's like half of the entire gold market cap right now. It's like
Yeah, and we just conjure it out of thin air. It's not going to end well for fiat.
yeah. Let's talk about a little bit about why that's why is that so problematic to print money like we are right now. I think most people are just completely disconnected from it.
Well, you can't print your way to prosperity. It
Yeah,
just doesn't work.
yeah. It's
No country that's tried has ever been successful.
mhm. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a huge thing. Like we've seen the precedents of what happens when people try and do this, and it's pretty ugly. And that's what really confuses me a lot about the narrative of people saying that we're not going to see inflation, especially these MMT people. Um,
Yeah, what are they going to do? Bury their heads in the sand? I mean, used car values are appreciating, and that makes no sense to me.
mhm.
a case of chicken wings is up to $150 for a 40-pound case. It's directly impacting my business. As small business owners see inflation. We see it before consumers do.
So yeah, so how are you guys navigating that inflation?
Well, you can look at my menu and you'll see chicken wings are priced at market price.
Mhm. And yeah,
Yeah, we don't have printed menus. Everything's digital with QR codes, so I can change the prices every week.
yeah, that's one thing I noticed about your business is like you've definitely been ahead of the curve as far as like getting online and um, doing some other business ventures that take advantage of that. There's a lot of businesses out there that are really struggling to adapt. Uh, do you think like I mean, where do you see the future going specifically for like dine-in restaurants and retail style places?
I'm not really sure. There's a big movement towards off-premise takeout and delivery. We're involved in virtual restaurants where we have 3 or 4 other brands that we service out of our restaurant. There's a lot of automation coming into to food service. There's a robot that can work the fryers, the flat top. In December, there's a pizza robot that's going to be unleashed on the market. Right? So we'll be less reliant on labor. Things are changing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Things are changing real quick. It's like, do you think that the prices of like these things will ever come down, or is this going to be a major indefinite issue?
Well, I think the prices on the single item kind of inflation prices will come down. It's the contagion to the rest of everything is what will end up happening. So,
Yeah,
like right now, we have single item inflation. We have um, our chicken wings and our cooking oil are just going up exponentially. The rest of the food items are pretty flat. Maybe we're seeing 15, 20 cents on a $30 item increase, but nothing crazy. But as the prices of those single items start to stabilize, we'll see the other items also go up.
interesting. Yeah, that's definitely interesting. Like I mean, I've noticed like I was making jokes about it when I first started the podcast about how that we wouldn't have a dollar menu at McDonald's anymore, and that's like the case right now. They've essentially just like gutted it, and it's all gone. Like,
I'm expecting by the end of the year, instead of having a big stack of 20s at the end of a busy Friday night, it'll be a big stack of hundreds.
so like how like looking forward, what are your guys' plans for navigating the inflation that we'll almost indefinitely see, other than just like changing the
We're able to rapidly change prices on our menus. We increase the wages for our guys every time we increase the prices. We want to keep all of our staff at pace with inflation. It's it's a tough place, and and operators that aren't prepared to deal with it are going to lose.
Mhm. And have your staff been really noticing and feeling it as well?
They notice it when they go to the grocery store.
Yeah. I mean that's
You get a smaller amount of goods for the same amount of money.
I mean that's really cool. You're probably the only business I've ever heard of that that is doing that right now.
You'll notice that a lot of businesses have raised their prices already.
Yeah. I like in regards to like raising the wages though.
They're we're also, if you want to hire anybody, you need to pay better. The government's currently paying $800 a week in unemployment.
Is that something that you see? Like I notice some states are shutting down the unemployment benefits.
Thankfully, Arizona is one of those states
We
that's
are.
shutting it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll provide relief to some of these business owners. My concern is, do you really want to hire somebody that their motivation was to stay home?
Yeah.
Is that going to make a good employee?
Yeah.
I'm not really interested in hiring those people.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's yeah, the incentives are just like all over the place right now. I mean, I talk to people, pretty regularly, and this is like a reoccurring issue that is brought up is that it's hard to find.
There's a help wanted sign on every business that you can walk by. I mean, it's everywhere.
Yeah. So we've kind of seen like American small businesses just absolutely demolished over the past year. Um, what do you think like the future of American small businesses is like?
It's a really challenging time for small business. We're not able to go borrow millions of dollars at 0% interest like the big corporations are. You've got our competitors like Pizza Hut. They have unlimited access to capital, so they can keep their prices artificially low, sell things at a loss for now just to win market share and put everybody else out of business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, do you see Bitcoin as a solution to those issues specifically?
Absolutely, having a stable hard currency fixes a lot of problems.
How would you think would it be different, like going forward in the future under a Bitcoin standard of like, for the small businesses in this regard?
Well, I think you can do away with things like minimum wage. You can let free market determine what wages are.
Makes sense.
That way, if there's a 16-year-old kid that wants to get some experience and wants to wash dishes or do something, learn this craft, they can come do that. And, if $9 an hour or $10 an hour makes sense for him, then so be it.
Yeah, minimum wage is something that's brought up a lot, and what's interesting is like the people that are generally promoting that idea are not the people that are concerned about the inflation that's causing, you know, the actual like discussion of minimum wage.
Right. You raise the minimum wage and inflation goes up, and the people at the bottom are not any better off.
Mm.
In fact, I would say they're worse off today than they were when we had an 8.25 minimum wage when I opened this business.
Yeah.
My my guys, when I first opened, on 8.25 an hour, were able to afford an apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Now they can barely rent a room, and they're making 14.
Yeah, the real estate is just like absolutely insane. And Lynn Alden, I'm not sure if you saw this article, but she put one out on inflation. One of the things she talked about is like over the past, 30 years, especially, we've seen this giant leap of centralized ownership of land, property of like 10% of the population in 2019 owned 70% of all the houses. And I think it's gotten a lot worse since 2019 with all the free money out there.
Yeah, well, inflation benefits those who get their hands on the money first.
Yeah. So we're like seeing this creep of like, socialism, kind of like Marxist ideology into like the general conversation is becoming a lot more prevalent.
It's kind of really interesting. I came into Bitcoin not really being political at all. I'm by trade I was a software engineer, and I saw Bitcoin like on Slashdot in 2010, 2011, like really early on. Some articles, and I fleetingly played around with it then, and then in November of 2012, it popped up on my radar again, and then that's when I really got into it. Once I got into Bitcoin, I discovered all these libertarians and really discovered a lot of libertarian ideals that now make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it was pretty similar experience for me. It was, the amazing thing about Bitcoin to understand it's like a virus. Once it catches hold of you, you just want to learn more and more. But it forces us to like really ask questions that we've never thought about before. Like, what is money? And how does the money work? And who's controlling it? And why are they?
Stuff that you just never thought of, really. I mean, I would work and I'd try to earn and save some money and just went about my life, right? But now I understand this is bullshit. They just print this out of thin air.
And as they're doing that, they're essentially stealing
Yeah,
from all of us.
it's a hidden tax on everybody.
Yeah, it's yeah. As far as like,
You figure what they printed 26% of the dollars in existence this year, so that's a 26% tax on everything that's in your savings account.
yeah, and we're just starting to, really feel that too.
It's going to take some time for all the effects to settle in. We'll see a lot of it by the end of the government year, which is end of September,
Hmm. Yeah,
which also coincides with the traditional peak of the Bitcoin market from days from the halving.
that's really interesting.
September is going to be a hell of an interesting month.
Well, I mean, it's just one interesting month after another.
Well, the Treasury has to wind down its full budget by the end of September.
Yeah,
They they were at over $1 trillion to start. By the end of June, they have to get to 500 billion. So quite a bit of money is going to be flowing into the economy.
hmm, yeah, I mean, there's like a major price dip right now. Yeah, we saw like some unprecedented things, like with MicroStrategy and um, Mass Mutual, Tesla, all buying Bitcoin, putting in their treasuries. Michael Saylor put on that seminar, for businesses to.
Bitcoin for corporations kind of thing. Yeah.
There's a lot of talk that energy is not over. That more and more companies are going to be diving into Bitcoin. Um,
So a lot of this is just game theory, right? I mean, it's you can do technical analysis on the charts and moving average crossovers and all that kind of crap. And it's not going to help you one bit.
mm,
It's game theory with billionaires playing with tons of money and who's going to flinch, who's going to move.
yeah, yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think like when I'm talking with people that are like new in the space, I suggest for them to dollar cost average and not trade. For that reason, try and time the markets.
It's really best to just dollar cost average, ignore the price, don't even worry about it, hold for at least 4 years.
Yeah, because in that 4 years, that's the cycle of with the
Right.
halving.
Right. That gets you into the next halving, another cycle, and then you have an opportunity to sell if you need to, or hold for another 4 years if you financially able to just continue to live with what you have, then keep putting it away.
Mhm. Yeah,
You
yeah,
can build multi-generational wealth.
yeah. I mean, this is the thing. Like I really try, and I get really excited with services like Fold that offer Bitcoin back on purchases.
See, that's great for people that are just barely scraping by, living paycheck to paycheck. They're able to get a small amount of Bitcoin on their purchases that they make every day.
Yeah, it's
You don't have to strain your life, stress out about, I mortgaged my house to buy Bitcoin. Don't do stupid shit like that.
yeah, yeah. It's I mean, like I think one of the hardest things for people is to not be emotional in these markets, and it's in the stock market too. Like one thing that I've noticed, like with a lot of my friends that aren't Bitcoiners, when they look at it, they think it's kind of like a gamble. They treat it like going to the casino, and the way that they put money into these things and are willing to put their money into Dogecoin or
Well, yeah, if they're putting their money into shit coins, then it is playing the casino.
yeah, yeah. It's a hard shift for people, out of that mindset, out of that fiat mindset into a Bitcoin mindset. Sure.
It really is. Um, I see it as if the price of Bitcoin goes down, my net worth in Bitcoin went up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
because my fiat net worth stayed the same, and now it buys more Bitcoin. So my total net worth is since I'm on the Bitcoin standard, is Bitcoin denominated. So now I'm worth more coins.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really, really excited. Last night I was out to eat with my girlfriend and she had that realization for the first time.
Yeah,
She is like, we're eventually going to start pricing things in sats and not dollars anymore,
it's a ways off,
but it will happen.
but it will happen.
Yeah. It's that, yeah. I mean, you've got a good money and then a terrible money, and it's like, which one do you legitimately want to hold on to and chase over the long term?
And the better money wins every time.
Yeah.
It's just human nature.
Yeah. Yeah. What, like, when you're running your meetups and you've got new people walking in, where do you generally point them to?
We try to get them set up with a wallet. We point them at, where they can buy, try to give them a general understanding what Bitcoin is and what differentiates it from the rest of the crypto market.
Mhm. So, for you specifically, how do you see Bitcoin different than the rest of the crypto market?
So Bitcoin is the true decentralized major invention that solved the Byzantine general problem. It's a very unique thing. It can't be duplicated or replicated.
Mhm. Yeah. Do you like I just clarify, like, I'm a maximalist and I refer to altcoins as shitcoins too. But do you see like a future for altcoins, in this market and stuff that you're doing?
There's a lot of interesting development that happens in the altcoin market,
Mhm.
and Bitcoin can take advantage of those developments and incorporate some of those things into Bitcoin in the future.
Yeah.
The the Bitcoin core developers are very cautious. It's not a simple task to change the protocol. You can't just push something to GitHub and say, "Oh, there's the Berlin fork. Let's go." It's we have to have universal consensus of all the people running nodes and all the miners. It's not a trivial task to change Bitcoin.
Yeah. I mean, that's the amazing thing about it is how difficult it is to co-opt as a network. I think like one of the major concerns that like a lot of people have coming into the space is this fear that like the government is going to somehow co-opt it, and we've definitely seen a lot of like negative attention directed at Bitcoin recently with like the whole climate change, nonsense that's being talked about mining and.
I personally think it's a good goal to focus our efforts on renewables.
Mhm.
And I'm not a huge fan of SHA-256 double rounds on the block header. I think it's a kind of silly, arbitrary hashing function, and it's not quantum resistant, and it will have to change at some point. So,
Do you see that as like a major point of conflict in the future?
yeah, that'll be what causes the first major hard fork for Bitcoin. Will be a quantum upgrade,
What do you think the timeline for something like that is?
probably within the next 3 years.
Okay. Yeah, I
The
saw that.
I follow quantum cryptography very closely. Um, the National Institute of Standards is on the round 3 of the competition for the finalists. So after this competition that's happening imminently, they'll have the recommendations on which algorithms are preferred.
Okay. And what do you think that process would look like, and how would that change Bitcoin? If
Well, we won't be using elliptical curves for our signatures anymore. It'll be zero knowledge proof kind of thing over a large lattice. So very, very different kind of way of signing.
Gotcha. How does that change things like for the average person sending a transaction?
It'll change all of the wallet software. The blocks will be quite a bit bigger because all the keys will be bigger. It's a big infrastructure change. The mining will probably look drastically different than it does now.
Gotcha. Interesting. How would that impact decentralization ultimately?
I'm hoping that it's a great opportunity to make Bitcoin even far more decentralized than it is now. The mining is way too concentrated in the hands of a few large players. I would much rather see it back to the users.
Gotcha. How would the like how would that look? So it would it mean that like we wouldn't be mining with ASICs anymore, or it'd go back to GPUs, or
There's lots of different approaches. There's CPU bound kind of solutions. There's Microsoft has a patent on kind of proof of human. So, one belly button, one vote kind of situation.
Gotcha.
I'd personally like to see something that leans towards like AI computers. So you have essentially what looks similar to a large GPU array. That way, when the miners are seeking profitability, they don't just mine Bitcoin. They can also like lease the hardware for things like deep space exploration.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that's just like so incredible about Bitcoin is how it opens up the door of like all these new possibilities. Like we wouldn't have, go back 30 years, we wouldn't have imagined what we could have be doing today with the internet, with podcasting, YouTube. I mean, with your online business that you're running, I'm sure that wasn't like really something that you had in the back of your head 30 years ago. And Bitcoin, like,
I grew up with the internet. It's I was had a dial up 2600 baud modem, dialing into BBSs before there were any like connected internet machines, and then on AOL and Prodigy connecting to the internet for the first time. So I've been around the whole growth of technology. Like when I was in college, I wrote a little script to find all the 4 and 5 letter domain names that were dictionary words. I was going to buy them all up, but I didn't have the money. There's a guy, Michael Saylor, who bought them.
Yeah,
went to college about the same time as me.
That's funny.
Looks like he had the money.
That's funny. Yeah, I was just about to say that.
Look at some of the domains he owns. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean that seemed like a pretty lucrative investment for him to do. What would it have costed you back then to buy a domain like that?
I think they were like $10 a piece.
Gotcha. So,
but as a broke college student, and a list of like 100 really cool domains, what do you do?
Yeah, for sure. As far as like say somebody's on the edge or like has a business that they want to start accepting Bitcoin, what would be some like guidance that you would give them in the decision making process of why they should start doing it?
Well, it's easy to just start accepting Bitcoin and announce it. And the hard thing is getting people to spend.
Yeah,
and I think that's where we've had problems in the past, right? There's been all these businesses accepted Bitcoin, and then nobody spent any Bitcoin with them, and they're like, why are my guys trained on this if no one's going to use it? You have to have demand for people to spend it for the acceptance to make any sense.
Gotcha. It sounds like you kind of created that demand.
I did.
Yeah. So I would like that. I want to see a business in Tucson that is willing to host a meetup for us, to get us to.
It shouldn't be too hard to find a good business owner that's interested.
Yeah, for sure. What's kind of giving you hope for the future? So, like things are just so insane right now, but what looking forward do you think is good on the horizon?
Well, I'm looking forward to the world switching off of these fiat currencies and the whole shit burning down, switching to Bitcoin, where we can stop the endless wars and solve things like poverty and homelessness. Because the path that we're going on now is just making it worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, it's what do you think that transition from fiat to Bitcoin will look like?
It's going to be painful. I think it'll start to open up with the banks when they start offering Bitcoin deposit accounts alongside your fiat accounts. And you can just start converting to Bitcoin right there in your Wells Fargo or Bank of America account. Then it's really going to change.
Gotcha.
And I think you're going to have to, because inflation's going to get so bad.
Mm-hmm. It seems like there's some companies that are kind of poising themselves to be ready for that. to be able to offer services like that. I know Caitlin Long's working on something like that out in Wyoming.
Yeah, I know NIDIG is working with a bunch of major banks to facilitate these kinds of products. So it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Yeah. Do you have any idea when you think we'll start seeing that?
I'm not sure. It's usually necessity is the mother of creation. So when we start to see, double-digit inflation, then there's definitely going to be a big rush to try to retain your wealth.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in some degrees, we're already seeing that double-digit inflation.
Not quite. I mean, the overall at the CPI is running 4 or 5, maybe 6% at the most. So we're not seeing 10% a month. It's not Argentina or Venezuela yet.
Yeah.
But it can quickly accelerate.
Yeah, I think it will. It'll. Yeah, it's something like I'm watching the gas prices pretty closely.
I mean, you go to some of these other countries that experience high inflation, and people convert their paychecks to dollars. They don't hold their local currency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard somebody talking about that in Mexico. They said the peso is for spending and the dollar is for saving.
Right.
And that's
so Bitcoin is for saving. Right
yeah,
now.
yeah. Bitcoin is 100% better for saving. But that is kind of like an interesting thing to think about. Of like if the dollar's hardly inflating compared to. I mean, I think this is like the thinking a lot of people have, like with a lot of these other assets, like in the stock market. In a lot of these financial tools out there is like they're inflating slower.
Yeah, it's like, oh well, my purchasing power is going down, but my portfolio is bigger, so I'm okay.
Yeah, yeah,
and that works until it stops working.
Mm-hmm.
The PE ratios are off the charts. These companies are way overvalued.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
There's going to be a black swan event.
Any predictions on what it's going to be?
I don't like September.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could see, Bitcoin crashing really hard in September, the stock market crashing really hard in September as well. Housing market doing the same thing. So could be a triple whammy.
Yeah. Well, definitely be good to have some cash on hand for that.
Have some gold.
Have some gold.
Gold, silver, Bitcoin, hard money.
Stuff that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, gold's been performing, pretty poorly, seeing as like all the conditions, to make it.
Well, the central banks have control of the gold. They have 90% of the supply. They lease it out to the market to suppress the price. And the paper gold is sold 3 times, so who knows how much actual gold backs all these ETF gold.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little risky.
Yeah. Do you think that could be an issue with Bitcoin? I know that's something that people bring up as a potential concern for the future.
That's why you need to hold your own coins.
Yeah.
Not your keys, not your coins. Avoid services like BlockFi that are rehypothecating your coins and have no proof of reserves. For all you know, they're paying, their 5% interest using a fractional reserve model.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they do admit to rehypothecating, but
they've never proven any reserves. They leaked at least 100, somewhere to 1,000 coins. We don't know how many. They never admitted how many were leaked. There's no transparency. Yeah, as a Bitcoiner, I demand transparency.
Mm-hmm.
The chain is there. It's transparent. Don't hide shit. Mm-hmm. It's not going to play out well.
Yeah. Yeah, when you were talking about like the banks offering Bitcoin services like in your account, I think that's kind of like a funny concept to think about. Of like they're almost like encouraging the end of like their demand or for customer.
They have a product, and their product doesn't care what the currency is.
Yeah.
So they're ready to transition to what the new money is going to be. It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need a bank because with Bitcoin you can be your own bank. But for a lot of people, that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, taking custody of your own keys, it's easy to screw up. I've lost countless amount of money just by stupid mistakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think like the thing that's like exciting about Bitcoin is that it would force them to be accountable in a way that they haven't been before. Like what you were talking about, like a proof of reserves. Like we can demand something like that with Bitcoin.
Yeah, the really good thing is the new government that'll form after the collapse of the dollar. That government will operate on Bitcoin and will be fully transparent. So we'll know where our money's going. It's not going to be, you know, 700 million to these black projects that just disappears. That kind of behavior will stop.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely it's exciting to think about in the future, but like the interim process to getting there is
The motivation to build huge militaries will go away.
yeah, I think like this is like one of the most important things for people to understand about fiat currencies is that the cost of war goes up tremendously with hard money.
I mean, we're at war right now. There's a massive cyber war that's well underway.
Yeah.
It's subtle. It's not ships blowing up ships right now, but it could quickly turn to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's also the Chinese flooding us with fentanyl. They're, the drugs are coming in and destroying the lower parts of our civilization, and they know it is, and they're happy to ship more over.
well, they also just got caught recently shipping us fiat money. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, the prop money that's got seized by some customs folks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I know that the U.S. has talked about doing that in North Korea, just like flying helicopters full of money and just dropping
just
it
dropping it. Yeah,
to totally just debase the currency. That's a pretty crazy thing if you think about it.
yeah, we're debasing the currency just fine without any help. So
Yeah, yeah, it's that's something that's really crazy to think about is like this idea of fifth generational warfare, of like how that it's not like troops fighting each
no,
other.
no, it's cloak and dagger cyber warfare now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've been telling my family after watching the Colonial Pipeline hack and what happened with the Texas power grid that it's it.
Now it's the what JVS meats.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. And so they got hacked with ransomware, and now they have to shut down every meat processing plant all across the country.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't make any fucking sense to me.
Yeah,
Why are you so dependent on IT to just chop meat, package meat? You can still do that. They were able to do this function before there were computers. Type up some paper invoices and let's get to work.
yeah, yeah.
You don't disrupt the food supply.
Well, I think like one of the issues, it's came up with another hack that happened recently. I think it was somewhere in the south. It wasn't the Colonial Pipeline, or it might have been the Colonial Pipeline. They Part of the reason of the shutdown was that they weren't going to be able to receive payment, and that was their biggest concern.
Yeah, they want to get paid.
Yeah, yeah, it's like they're going to shut down everybody's utilities, and yeah, it's
I think there's still trouble getting gas on the East Coast as a result of that. Right? The prices go up and don't come back down.
yeah. I mean, I've been following gas pretty closely ever since the oil futures went negative in 2020. That was like one of the craziest things, and I've followed it. And I've been concerned because they cut the supply down, pretty heavily over, both in Russia and with OPEC, and it's going to take a little bit to like start ramping that up. And then when Biden came in and started shutting down oil production and pipelines in the U.S.
Well, we're reaching that level where shale is back in business and economical again, so that'll help.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. It'll make it.
Marathon Oil did really well today.
Did they?
Yeah.
Is that the same company as like the Marathon Mining? Or
No.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Cool. Well, where can people follow you guys? You guys on social media?
Yeah, we're on Twitter at Classic Crust AZ.
Yeah.
That's the main place to get crypto kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For just food kind of stuff, we're on Instagram as well.
Cool. And why is your pizza better than Pizza Hut?
It's made by hand with people that actually care, with quality ingredients. We're not a mega corporation.
Yeah.
I just do this because I love it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to eating something after.
For sure.
Well, good to have you on, Alex. It was a lot of fun.
Right on.
Thanks. That was a fun conversation with Alex, and if you get the chance, definitely go stop by Classic Crust Pizza. You can spend a little bit of Bitcoin, not enough to break the bank. You're not going out and buying a Tesla or doing something dumb like that with it. You're just buying, a slice of pizza or two, stuff that is not that difficult to replace with a quick buy order. But yeah, man, this movement is so incredibly important. If we fix the money, we fix the world. And this is what gets me so excited about Bitcoin. Like, we can really have the power to change things at one of the most pivotal points in human history, as we're just watching all this chaos and breakdown of society and just everything being rearranged and reshifted. Like, we can be at the forefront of this and usher in a better form of money than we've ever had before, and one that actually protects individuals. And that's what this is about. We got some Bitcoin meetups coming up, this month. We have one in Phoenix on the 17th, I believe, and one in Tucson on the 19th. I might have flip-flopped those. But yeah, if you want to go check those out on the Arizona Bitcoin Network meetup page, that way you can stay up to date with them. Hope to see you there, and have a good one.